Hello, listeners. My name is Donna, and I am a board-certified psychiatric and family nurse practitioner. Welcome to the Brighten Up podcast, where we pull up the shades and shine the light on mental health topics both affecting and improving the lives of families. Welcome to today's Brighten Up Part 2 of our Faith series. We have the honor of speaking with Shayndel Kahn, an ordained Rabbinic Pastor, spiritual director, and interfaith chaplain based in Sarasota, Florida. Rabbi Kahn currently works at the Jewish Family and Children's Service of the Sun Coast, where she provides spiritual, emotional, and religious support to individuals facing life challenges such as illness, grief, and isolation. In addition to serving as an interfaith chaplain, Rabbi Kahn is a certified heart math trainer and coach, teaching techniques that promote inner peace and balance. She also incorporates therapeutic music and guided imagery into her practice to foster a sense of healing and personal growth. Outside of work, Rabbi Kahn is a musician, releasing an album in 2020 called The Indwelling Presence, a collection of songs describing her spiritual journey. Shayndel, it's an honor to have you here today with us. Thank you so much. I am going to say you are especially kind to be here, considering our first attempt at this led to some technical difficulties, which makes you even more of an awesome guest here today. Thank you. I'm going to say Mazel Tov in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for doing this kind of podcast, because mental health is so important.
It really is. It's important to have your head in the game of life for everything else to fall into place. Shayndel, can you please tell us a little bit more about your life story and journey so far, and what really attracted you to ministry?
Well, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I lost the accent a long time ago, although my sister still talks like a Brooklynite. And I lived in the projects. It was called Bayou. And I grew up in a community it was 25 buildings, I think. And there were like 4 buildings that surrounded a playground. And it was full of community. We knew all our neighbors. I lived on the 5th floor and knew everybody who lived on the 5th floor and upstairs and downstairs. And so it really, really taught me the importance of community. And I think was a big influence on my life and who I am today. I love making community connections. And the places that I have worked and I have chosen has really reflected that. And I became a rabbi later in life. I was actually a preschool teacher for a long time and then did music and movement with children. And then I was in cantorial school because I really loved the liturgy and I loved singing. And I was applying for cantorial positions when I realized I wasn't really meant to be in the congregational life. And I decided, what do I want to do? So I asked that question, and immediately I thought I really want to do music and healing. I found a way to combine those when I went to a program called the Music and Healing for Transition program, which is a program that looks at how to use music therapeutically with patients at bedside, especially with the dying. And that really led me to chaplaincy. And so I chose a program that actually had a chaplaincy track, and I pursued, the rabbinic studies at the Aleph Seminary. And it really was the only program that had this track called Rabbinic Pastor. And I worked as a hospice chaplain in Massachusetts and then in California. And then when I came here to Florida, I got a job working as the community chaplain, community rabbi here in Sarasota. And I love the job. I love JFCS. I love the people there. I love singing. I love dancing. I love writing music. And I love the outdoors. And I just am always interested in learning and growing.
You are the perfect person for this position, really, to be serving Sarasota, Florida in such a, open, respectful, kind manner, and really meeting people where they're at and encouraging them to participate in a number of services that are offered under your jurisdiction, which we'll get into shortly. And I'm sure it must be even more rich as well, just to have that privilege to accompany people right at the end of their life and give them and their families that sense of comfort and peace, and to really tie it all together in a bow, being an interfaith chaplain and just so familiar and comfortable working with people of all backgrounds. That has to be rewarding, I imagine.
It is. It really is.
So as you know, this is part 2 of our faith series to kick off 2025. We're running a little bit behind, but better late than never. And it was important to me to really focus and touch on some of the Jewish practices and rituals that foster faith and a deep spiritual connection. Can you please discuss from your perspective, what some of those practices are and how you have witnessed them foster that sense of faith and spiritual connection?
In terms of Judaism and faith, we just have a sense of, really wanting to heal and fix the world. It's a big Jewish value. But I think, bringing it down to opening our hearts to something higher than ourselves, right? To being connected to something bigger, and for some people that they call that God. I certainly do. But other people, call it a higher power or the universe, and people connect to nature. So it's really important to just connect to something, that fills your heart and soul. Certainly nature is a big one. And, looking at the ocean or the trees or, just connecting to something bigger, which gives us that spiritual higher connection. Sitting in silence, just breathing, placing a hand on the heart. It releases oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. Small pauses during the day. I think in terms of the Jewish piece, it's just, people connect to Judaism in many different ways. Many people connect as a culture, as a tribe. It's a very community, actually, religion. We believe in, praying in community, and, our high holidays, we take on together praying for peace and praying for ourselves and for the world. And again, as I said, fixing the world, something called tikkun olam, really making a difference in the world is really a very high value in Judaism.
I can definitely see that in my own personal experience. My husband and I lived in southern New Jersey for a period of time, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where our oldest son was born. And in our community, we were probably one of the only people who were not Jewish, and we were just welcomed in such a beautiful way, and really were privileged to participate in many rituals and celebrations, and just drawn out of our home. Hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? How can I help you? And it was so heartwarming and honestly different for me. It was just really eye-opening to witness firsthand that sense of community and putting words into action. As you reflect on Judaism and the teachings that maybe young children receive growing up Jewish, what are some of the most meaningful teachings for you that you share with people who you work with?
One of my favorite prayers, there are many. It's actually, we say this at the end of our silent prayer, which is, Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, which is, sim actually means place or put. So it's putting peace, goodness, blessing, kindness, and compassion. So we're placing all of these qualities into our life and into the world, respect, loving kindness, giving charity, as I said, tikkun olam, fixing and healing the world, doing something that you can help, somebody, change their lives, which JFCS certainly does, which we talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, really making a difference in people's lives. Any act that we take to help others is a step in the healing of the world. Our Sabbath, which begins on Friday night, is a family event, right? We sit down, we have our meal together, you light candles, we say a blessing of wine and bread, and we usually do that with other people, not just our families. We often have other people involved in that, and it's just very connecting to have our families and friends together, and just taking that pause at the end of the week.
That's really nice, Shayndel. And in a society now where there's so much isolation and people are siloed, to have that celebratory Sabbath on Fridays, to be able to do that is fantastic for mental health too, and having that sense of community and that partnership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And teaching kids as well, I believe, to start thinking about early on how they can contribute to society, not only helps society, but also helps them really increase self-awareness and try out what their own strengths are and how they might do that growing up with their own interests. There was a news story on yesterday with a teacher saying, she taught in a public school in her area for 3 years, but she left. She just got burnt out. And she felt that not all, but many of the students she was encountering, really had no idea or no seeds planted or given any thought to, how they or their particular unique skills may contribute to society. So to be able to instill that and start talking about that and creating that desire to help others is really beautiful.
Right. Yeah. There's actually a wonderful school in town called Community Day School, which has Jewish and non-Jewish children. And, the thrust of the school, their mission is, teaching skills of kindness and respect and love, for the planet and for themselves and for each other. It's just quite a beautiful place. And we really need to plant those seeds early.
Yes, it's really planting them to really, you can obviously reap the benefit in that harvest. And I think that really can prevent a lot of issues too, as kids enter middle school. It can be a little bit dicey and tricky, and bullying and all of that goes along with it. Having that foundation is life-changing and society changing. I recently read an article that in Denmark they begin teaching empathy in elementary school as well, and just really the difference and the increase in emotional intelligence that makes, and the kindness and the crime rate, how it just really is a domino effect, instilling that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was more routine. It was part of like gym class or science. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
So the Jewish Family and Children's Service, JFCS in Sarasota, Florida, is dedicated to providing mental health and human services to individuals and families all across the Suncoast region. Guided by Jewish values, these services extend to people of all faiths, designed to empower individuals toward well-being and self-reliance. Shayndel, can you please elaborate on the specific services offered and provide the listeners with examples of the positive impact these services have had on the community?
Incredible impact, I would say. So Jewish Family and Children's Services is just an amazing organization, which I feel so privileged to work for and work with amazing practitioners. And it's just a really beautiful place to be in. And the services that we provide, mental health for children and families, people with substance abuse. We have a veterans program, for veterans homeless or coming out of jail, and really helping them find resources. Really all about not just handouts, but really giving them a hand up we have an amazing counseling program. We just started this community youth response services program, really catching kids before they fall, to really intervene sooner rather than when it's too late. We work with kids that are, anger management. I mean, it's just amazing, the programs that we have. We have a substance abuse program, residential program. And recently we had the county of Sarasota come and visit one of these programs, and there were, I think, like 7 women that stood up and gave testimonials of what this program did in their life. And one person said, if it wasn't for JFCS, I'd be dead. So, I mean, I get the chills even when I say that. So we're literally saving lives. We're helping, and we're saving, and we're giving people hope and healing. So it's just pretty phenomenal, the work that we do. And the miraculous stories that we have. We also have something called Camp Mariposa, a camp that meets on the weekends for preteens, one weekend, and teens on another weekend who have had parents with substance abuse. And, they just tell stories and work together and come back with such hope and promise of, that they're not going to be like that, and heal from their experiences with parents who have had addiction problems. So across the board, we just have an incredible staff, an incredible CEO who really raises and puts our feet to the fire, and our programs just offer such healing and hope. It's pretty amazing.
I can see that's touching on so many different societal issues and age ranges across the lifespan, and really changing the trajectory of lives. And we don't know what we don't know, and identifying, areas for improvement and empowering. It sounds just very empowering to acknowledge each individual, meet them where they're at, and just instill that hope and encouragement that you can make these changes. You can implement them. We're here to support you. And by doing so, just all of the future generations that will impact, just by having them have that ability, it stops here. Let me absorb other coping skills, because so much of substance abuse, I believe, a large, very big contributing factor is untreated trauma or chaotic upbringings. Not always, but a lot of times, or just depression, anxiety, other underlying genetic influences as well. And hitting that with real deal support system and tools to combat that is amazing, especially for kids, I'm sure, who are growing up in that environment. I'm curious, what is the total number of staff to manage all these programs?
Oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to that. We have, a wide range of people that work in, Charlotte County. I think that's a lot of our veteran program. And then in Sarasota, we have 2 offices, and one is just, mostly the counseling staff there. And then, in our office, we have my program, which is Jewish Connections and Building Strong Families and Aging Services. And so we have many departments. We have the Reach and Ignite program, which is helping with relationships and fatherhood. I'm just kind of thinking about all the programs. So we have a lot of staff in Sarasota, and then we also have some in the Charlotte County area.
It sounds like the individuals leading these various services are trained in these areas and credentialed, and there's quite a bit of consideration that goes into appointing various individuals to head up these numerous programs. Yes, which is great too. Having that background is very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Very well trained and wonderful staff people there.
How many centers are there nationally, and how would you recommend individuals to seek out services? And an added question is, how many individuals have you served in Sarasota to date?
Oh, wow. Okay. So in terms of, there are about, say, 170 nonprofit Jewish human services organizations that spans United States, Canada, Israel. Basically, if you go to our website, JFCS of the Sun Coast, it lists all of our programs, and people could click on that and call us, and looking for counseling or relationship help or whatever you're looking for should be there. And probably is on our website our impact report, which goes through each program and how many people we've served, which I don't have in front of me. I run a bereavement program every 6 weeks, pretty much through the summer, like pretty much 3 times a year. And I also do a lot of individual bereavement counseling and grief counseling. And some people come in just for individual support to see me. And I work with the aging services department as well.
Shayndel, how is the program supported? Are there donations? How is it funded? And is there...
Yes. Yeah, it's a good question given the climate that we're in with, a lot of programs being dismantled. But, a lot of it is funded by donations. So we get a lot of grants. We have a grant writer, and we do a lot of marketing and have a lot of support from private donors, from foundations. The REACH and the Unite program is federally funded, I believe, and still being funded. But most of it is through donations. Okay. And we have a lot of wonderful and amazing people that believe in us and believe in what we're doing. And so thank you all out there if you're listening, if you have been a donor.
That's terrific, and really keeping the community afloat, because I don't know of other faith institutions within this area offering that broad spectrum of services. Mm-hmm. Have you had the opportunity to meet with or talk with other faith leaders in the area about the services and what's offered? Or
there is a ministerial association here in Sarasota, and we do collaborate and refer, and there are monthly meetings where all faiths are invited to come and join in conversations about different subjects and pray together as well. So that's one place where other organizations are doing that. I just met with somebody of the Jewish who was looking for a rabbi because his wife was dying and he couldn't afford a funeral. And because of the funding that we have in the Jewish Connections program, we were able to help with paying for the burial of his loved one.
Everybody's life matters, everybody's marriage. Yeah. What a beautiful, beautiful gesture. What is a favorite quote or interpretation that you've heard or encountered over the years about the power of having faith? And I'll take it a step further, hope.
Oh, what a great question. So, this is really one of my favorites, which really speaks to the JFCS mission of saving lives. And it comes from the Talmud. And it says, whoever saves a single life is considered by Scripture to have saved the entire world. And it also says, whoever destroys a single life is considered by Scripture to have destroyed the whole world. So, we're saving lives, and in doing so, we're saving the world. I love Hillel says, if not now, when?
Yes.
So I love that. And I certainly love Dr. Martin Luther King, which is darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Absolutely. Yes. Love and light and kindness, really the opposite of what ails the world and can make life so difficult. I love the summation that if you've saved one life, you've saved everybody, or if you've destroyed one life. It highlights the importance of every person in every life.
Yes, absolutely.
Before I move on to our last question, can you talk a little bit about the heart math and what that entails? Earlier in the podcast, during the introduction, I read that you were a heart math teacher. Can you talk about that and how you incorporate that into your group work?
So heart math it's in some ways it's really simple and really profound. So it's really a nervous system regulation. It helps to order your heart rhythms into a coherent heart rhythm pattern. When your heart is in coherence, your whole system becomes, more fluid, more online. Your heart is connected to your brain and you can think more clearly. And it's used with military, it's used for PTSD, it's used for hospitals and with children. And people report, it's very simple, technique of breathing in and out through your heart and activating gratitude and appreciation. But even the act of that in and out breath through the heart just gets the person out of that fight, flight, freeze place and just starts to settle the system. So then you can, those doing more of the trauma work could really engage more when the nervous system is settled. So I often just have people place their hands on their heart for a minute, and just breathe in and out through their heart to get a little regulated and get more settled so we can then have a deeper conversation. There's a whole program and teaches many of the different tools that go with the heart math program. And I don't know if lovely is a good way to say it. It's very profound, like I say, and it's so simple, just breathing in and out, any kind of breathing, really, anything that slows down the nervous system so that you're not in that fight flight, right? But there are many, many, many tools that heart math has to help with regulating ourselves. And
I think more and more of those alternative modalities, it's just a must. They're going to need to be incorporated. It's not just take a medication, or it's really developing a sense of self-awareness and consciously, where you're holding tension. Are you taking deep breaths? Are you white knuckling the steering wheel? Or and oftentimes you are, but many are, and how wonderful just to have another way to turn the thermostat down on the central nervous system, because over time, living in that fight or flight state, it really can wear down your adrenal glands and your whole hormonal cascade. And, once you're there and going down that way, it's hard to put it in reverse. It's just harder than just trying to stay ahead of the curveball.
Right. And the other wonderful thing about heart math is that you can do it in the moment. You could do it while you're driving and you get triggered by, the person that cuts you off, right? And you can just start breathing in and out through your heart with your eyes open, right? And just settle yourself right in that moment. So it's, an on the go tool.
Just like a cup of coffee right next. Well, you don't want coffee. That's going to jack you up, but something, a friend. Yeah, that's so true, especially here in Florida. I thought New York had some interesting drivers, but I think the sunshine, just might add speed or something. I don't know. It's certainly a good analogy. Lastly, can you please share with us a little bit more about your album, The Indwelling Presence? And I just want to stop there and pause at that title, The Indwelling Presence. That to me is touching on my heart, like a little anchor. It's profound. I love it. You released this in 2020, and you mentioned your love of music. I'm sure that inspired you to create this. Tell us a little bit more about what that process was like for you, how the idea came about, and if you don't mind, maybe sharing with us, a little bit of one of the songs.
Thank you. Indwelling presence in Hebrew, we have something called Shekhinah, which is the indwelling presence, which is the feminine aspect of God, but the indwelling place where God resides. And actually, one of the leaders of the indwelling it's one of the titles, the song on there, and she wrote it, and she was actually Sharon Teitelbaum, was the inspiration for the album. Both myself, Sharon, and this other woman, Mati Angelo, we're all writers of music and liturgy, and we'd get together and sing and pray together, and Sharon just one day said, we should do an album. We all went, what a great idea. And that's kind of how that little seed got planted and born. And we just started looking at doing some recording of our songs. And we were all part of the same Jewish community together. And so that's really how this album was born. We spent probably a good, maybe it was a year. It was actually right before I left for Israel. So we knew we really wanted to make sure we'd get this out before I left. And it was just a blast making it. It was the first time all of us were in the studio, and it was just really fun. And just very spiritual songs based on liturgy, or, based on the earth, based on being thankful, gratefulness, which is also a big Jewish part of our Jewish liturgy, and praise. And so one of the songs that I wrote is called Blessings. Maybe I'll sing the first line in the chorus of that, as we kind of with gratitude for all that we have and all that we can give to those who need our love and care. I open my heart to the Spirit. I open my heart to the song. I open my heart to the blessing that's been there all along. Blessings, blessings, bless this gift of life. Blessings, blessings, bless this gift of life.
Bravo. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's hard to not feel lighter about life if you identify something to be thankful for or a blessing. It's powerful.
Yes.
And you have a beautiful voice. And I bet that was a lot of fun creating this with close friends. Have you performed live or done that?
No, I mean, we've done things together, at services or offered it at a service, that we were invited to. But no, we haven't really done anything. I'm thinking there was one time so long ago. It's like, wow, what was that? But we might have done like one live performance, but no, we haven't.
Not yet. Maybe a podcast is in your future, Shayndel. You never know.
Perhaps.
I've learned a lot of podcasts with some of the guests I've had on, which is wonderful because in the end, it really is. For me, it's a joy and a hobby just to share information and have wonderful guests on like yourself, just to share and promote love, kindness, tools, resources toward making our life journeys just better and instilling hope. So I think you should start a podcast. That would be good.
Yeah. And if anybody's interested in my album, it's you can go to my website, which is shayndelkahn.com, SHAYNDEL Kahn.com. And I also have it on Bandcamp, so it's shayndelkahn.bandcamp.com, or you can just look for The Indwelling Presence by Ashira is the name of our group, which means we will sing.
We We will sing.
Or actually means I will sing, but we will sing. Yeah.
And we will also post that link as well under the podcast notes. Shayndel, you have a beautiful name as well. And I know we discussed this previously. Can you share with our listeners the meaning of your name in Judaism?
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. It's Yiddish. A lot of people might know it if you have some Jewish background. Shayna Maidala, the grandmother that came to pinch your cheeks, say Shayna Maidala. And it means beautiful.
Yeah, well, that definitely, you can definitely identify with that inside and out, your beautiful spirit as well as outward appearance.
Oh.
Really, I have to just want to say thank you so much again for being here today and just sharing your warmth and kindness and journey and resources, and for all the work that you do for the community through Jewish Family Services and that you continue to manage and promote. I would love to call you a friend and very happy to have met you. So thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real joy. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today, friends. We appreciate your time and attention and hope you can share this podcast with someone you love or care about. Until next time, remember to live on the bright side of life, like the sunflower who chooses to face the sun. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.